"Captain," a soft voice called from behind him. "The last transport has docked. All 300,000 survivors are aboard the fleet." Duha turned to face Hannah Park, his chief science officer. Her usual neat appearance was disheveled after 30 hours of supervising the evacuation. "Thank you, Hannah. How are the people holding up?" "As well as can be expected. The children's section is at full capacity, but the families are helping each other." Hannah's voice cracked slightly. "Most of them are still in shock." Duha understood their pain all too well. Just 6 months ago, their scientists had discovered that their sun was dying centuries before it should have. Their advanced technology, which had brought them peace and prosperity for 1,000 years, couldn't stop a star from dying. They had barely enough time to build their evacuation fleet. The command center's door slid open again, and Elder Jaiho Lee walked in slowly, leaning on his cane. Despite the chaos of evacuation, he still wore his traditional blue robes, a symbol of their people's council. "The medical bay reports everyone is settled," Jaiho said, his deep voice steady despite his obvious exhaustion. "Captain, it's time." Duha nodded and pressed the ship-wide communication button. His voice would reach not just the Morning Star, but all 12 ships in their refugee fleet. He took a deep breath, remembering his father's advice about leadership. "Speak from the heart, and the truth will give strength to your words." "My fellow survivors of Hanel," he began, using their people's name. "This is Captain Kim. Our evacuation is complete. In 10 minutes, we will make our first faster-than-light jump away from our home system." He paused, letting the reality sink in. "I know many of you are scared. I am too. But look around you. We are not alone. In these ships, we carry not just our people, but our entire civilization. Our knowledge, our culture, our hopes for the future." Through the viewport, he could see their sun expanding, its red light growing dimmer each day. Soon, it would consume their beautiful green planet, erasing all trace that they had ever lived there. "We have enough supplies for 5 years," he continued. "Our long-range scans have identified several advanced civilizations within reach. Surely, one of them will welcome us, seeing that we come in peace, bringing valuable knowledge and willing hands." Hannah stepped closer to the viewport, her reflection showing tears she wouldn't let fall. On her tablet, readings from their dying sun scrolled endlessly, each number worse than the last. "To our children," Duha said, his voice softening, "I promise you this: we will find a new home. To our elders, I swear we will keep our ways alive. To everyone aboard, know that as long as we stay together, hope remains." Jaiho approached the captain's station, entering the final launch codes with shaking hands. Outside, the other ships of their fleet moved into jump formation, massive silver vessels that had been built in desperate haste, but with all the skill their people possessed. "1 minute to jump," Hannah announced, her fingers flying over the control panel. "All ships report ready." Duha looked one last time at the red giant that had betrayed them. In all their history, the people of Hanel had never faced such a challenge. They had solved pollution centuries ago, ended poverty, cured disease, but they couldn't fight the laws of physics that had turned their sun against them. 30 seconds, Hannah said. Jaiho began singing softly, the ancient song of travelers, traditionally sung when beginning a long journey. Other voices joined in across the command center, then throughout the ship, and soon across the entire fleet. The melody carried their grief and their hope, a thread binding them together across the void. 10 seconds, Hannah whispered, not wanting to interrupt the song. Duha closed his eyes, picturing his home as it had been. Green fields, crystal cities, and children playing under a yellow sun. When he opened them again, he was ready. "Jump," he commanded. The stars stretched into lines of light, and their home disappeared forever. The fleet leaped into the unknown, carrying the last hope of their civilization. They didn't know it then, but their journey would take them far beyond the physical distance between stars. It would take them to the very meaning of what it meant to be civilized, and to a truth that would change not just their future, but the future of another world they hadn't yet discovered. Behind them, their sun continued its death throes, but they were already too far away to see it. Ahead lay only questions and the faint hope that somewhere among the countless stars, they would find a place to call home. Hannah Park sat in her laboratory, surrounded by star charts and rejection notices from 23 different worlds. Her once black hair had streaks of gray now, earned from years of searching for a solution. The screen in front of her showed yet another diplomatic message. While we respect your situation, our world cannot accommodate your population without disrupting our carefully balanced society. We wish you success in your continued journey. Hannah closed the message with a tired wave of her hand. They all said the same thing in different ways. Go away. You're too many. Your technology scares us. You're too different. A soft chime announced a visitor. Come in, she called, not looking up from her work. Young Mi, Captain Kim's daughter, who was now 16, walked in carrying 2 cups of tea. She had been just a baby when they left home, and the fleet was the only world she had ever known. Dad says you've been in here for 18 hours straight, young Mai said, placing 1 cup beside Hannah's charts. He's worried about you. Hannah smiled, taking the cup gratefully. Your father worries too much. I'm close to something, young Me. I can feel it. Another civilization. Something different. Hannah pulled up a new star map. Look here. Most advanced civilizations are clustered in the older parts of the galaxy, where stars and planets have had time to develop life fully. But there's this signal I've been tracking. She pointed to a spiral arm of the galaxy, far from their current position. It's from a younger region. The signals are primitive by our standards. Radio waves, satellite communications, early space exploration attempts. But they're growing stronger every year. Young Mei leaned closer, her eyes bright with interest. A developing civilization. Yes, the planet is called Earth. Hannah brought up more data. They're not very advanced. No faster than light travel. Limited space presence, still working on clean energy. But they're learning fast. The laboratory door opened again, and Captain Duha Kim walked in. The years had added silver to his temples, but his steps were still firm. Hannah, the council is asking for updates. Please tell me you have good news. Hannah stood up straight, suddenly energized. Duha, I think I've found our answer. Not in the advanced worlds that keep rejecting us, but in a younger civilization that might understand what it means to be growing, changing, facing challenges. She quickly showed him the data about Earth. Duha frowned as he studied it. They're very far behind us technologically. The council will say it's too risky. What if we disrupt their development? What if they fear us even more than the advanced worlds do? Or what if they see us differently because they're still learning themselves? Hannah countered. Look at their entertainment broadcasts. They're full of stories about space travelers and alien civilizations. They're curious, Duha. They're dreamers. Young Mi touched the image of Earth on the screen. It's blue and green, like our home was. The council meets in an hour, Duha said, his voice thoughtful. Hannah, prepare your findings. Young Mei, you should come too. The council needs to hear from the generation that will be most affected by this decision. An hour later, they stood before the council in the fleet's main meeting chamber. Elder Jai-Ho Lee, now using a hover chair, but still wearing his traditional blue robes, led the session. Hannah presented her research, showing Earth's rapid development over the past century. They're not perfect, she concluded. They still have wars, poverty, pollution, but they're working to solve these problems. They're reaching for the stars not because they've mastered everything, but because they dream of something better. Young Mi stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. I represent the children born in space. We've never had solid ground under our feet. Earth may not be as advanced as our old home, but they might understand what it means to be reaching for something better. The council chamber filled with murmurs. Some voiced concerns about approaching such a young civilization. Others worried about the long journey it would take to reach Earth. But as they talked, something new filled the room. Hope. Finally, Elder Jaiho raised his hand for silence. We left our home because we had no choice. We've wandered because the advanced worlds gave us no choice. Perhaps it's time we chose something different. He looked at Hana. Plot the course to Earth. May the wisdom of our ancestors guide us in this new direction. As the council session ended, Duha found Hana still looking at Earth's image. "Are you sure about this?" he asked quietly. Hana smiled, touching the star map where a small blue planet spun around its young, stable sun. "No, but sometimes the best hope isn't the perfect answer. It's the one that has room to grow." "Their detection systems have spotted us," reported Taiwan from his engineering station. "They're broadcasting messages on multiple frequencies." Duha stood at the center of the command bridge, his uniform freshly pressed for this historic moment. "Let's hear them." The speakers came alive with voices in different languages, all asking variations of the same questions. "Who are you? Why are you here? Do you come in peace?" "They're frightened," young Mai said softly. She had earned her place on the bridge as a junior communications officer. "But they're still trying to talk to us. They haven't started shooting." Hana smiled at the young woman's observation. "That's a good sign. The last 3 civilizations fired warning shots before we could even send a message." Duha nodded to young Me. "Open a channel. Let's show them we understand their main language." Young Me's fingers danced over her console. "Channel open, Captain." Duha took a deep breath. "People of Earth, I am Captain Duha Kim of the Hanal Refugee Fleet. We come seeking peaceful contact and request permission to meet with your world leaders." The response was immediate. Dozens of messages from different nations, military alerts, news broadcasts breaking across the planet. The Hanal crew watched as Earth's internet exploded with discussions about their arrival. "They're calling for an emergency United Nations meeting," Young Mai reported. "Most world leaders are already on their way to New York." Elder Jaiho, watching from his hover chair, spoke up. "Remember, we must be careful not to overwhelm them. Our ships alone must look like magic to their level of technology." Hana stepped forward. "Captain, let me go with you to meet them. I've studied their cultures, their fears, their hopes. They need to see that we're people, not just advanced aliens." The next day, a small shuttle carried Duha, Hana, and a carefully chosen team toward New York. They had picked this approach deliberately, coming in a small vessel, unarmed, making themselves vulnerable to show trust. As they descended through Earth's atmosphere, Hana pressed her hand against the window. "Real air," she whispered. "Real clouds." After 15 years in space, the sight of a living planet brought tears to her eyes. The shuttle landed on a cleared area near the UN headquarters. Thousands of people had gathered behind security barriers, holding signs in many languages. Some welcomed them, others warned them to leave, but most just wanted answers. "Ready?" Duha asked his team as they prepared to exit. Hana checked the small translator device at her throat. "Ready. Remember, simple words, clear intentions." The shuttle door opened, and Earth's sunlight touched their faces. The crowd fell silent as the Hanal delegation stepped onto Earth soil for the first time. Duha led them, followed by Hana and their team, all wearing their formal blue robes rather than space suits to show they could breathe Earth's air. Inside the UN building, representatives from every nation waited. The Grand Assembly Hall was packed, with cameras broadcasting the moment to billions of people worldwide. Duha walked to the speaker's podium, Hana at his side. The translator device hummed softly as he began to speak. "People of Earth," he said, his voice clear and strong. "We come to you not as conquerors or saviors, but as refugees seeking shelter. Our world died. We have traveled for 15 years, searching for a new home." Hana stepped forward, adding her voice. "We know our presence frightens you. Our technology is advanced beyond yours. But we were once where you are now, learning, growing, facing challenges. We don't want to rule you or change you. We just want to live, to contribute, to be part of your world." A murmur ran through the assembly. The UN Secretary General stood up. "You say you're refugees. How many are you?" 300,000, Duha answered. "We have scientists, doctors, teachers, artists, people who want to work and help build a better future. We can share some of our technology, carefully and slowly, so it doesn't disrupt your development." Questions flew from all directions. Where would they live? What did they need? How could Earth trust them? Through it all, Hannah noticed something different in these humans' eyes. Not the fear of competition she'd seen in advanced civilizations, but a mix of caution and curiosity. Hope and worry danced together in their expressions. As the session continued, Hannah's translator picked up a child's voice from the observer section. "Mom, they look just like us, but they must be so scared, so far from home." In that simple observation, Hannah heard what they'd been searching for all these years, the beginning of understanding. Sun Mekang had never expected to become a bridge between two worlds. As one of the youngest diplomats in the Hanel fleet, she now found herself sitting in a bright conference room in Geneva, sharing tea with human scientists and leaders. "So your people solved the energy crisis centuries ago?" asked Dr. Maria Santos, a leading Earth scientist. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity as she leaned forward. Sun smiled, stirring her tea carefully. "Yes, but we made many mistakes along the way. That's why we want to help Earth find its own path, not just give you all our answers." Across the room, Engineer Taiwan worked with a team of human engineers, their heads bent over designs for clean energy systems. He had spent the last week teaching them principles they could understand with their current technology. "Look here," Taiwan said, pointing to a diagram. "Your solar panels are already close to a breakthrough, with just a small change in the manufacturing process." The humans watched closely, taking notes. What amazed Taiwan was their quick understanding and creative questions. They didn't just want to copy Hanel technology. They wanted to understand it, improve it, make it their own. Outside the conference building, a group of children played in the garden. Young Mai had started a cultural exchange program, bringing Hanel children to meet Earth kids. They didn't need translators. Games, laughter, and curiosity spoke their own language. "They don't care that we're from different worlds," young Mai told her father during their evening call. "Yesterday, a human girl taught our children to play hopscotch. Today, our children taught them old Hanel counting games." Duha smiled at his daughter's excitement. "How are the parents handling it?" "Better than we expected," young Mai replied. "Especially after we shared our story. They understand what it means to want a better future for your children." In another part of the city, Hannah Park met with Earth's environmental scientists. They showed her data about Earth's climate challenges, pollution problems, and endangered species. "We've faced similar problems," Hannah told them. "See these patterns in your data? We saw the same things before we found solutions, but you're actually ahead of where we were in some ways." "Ahead?" a scientist asked, surprised. "But your technology is so much more advanced." Hannah pointed to reports of conservation efforts and growing environmental movements. "Technology isn't everything. Your people are learning to care about your world earlier in your development than we did. That's very important." As weeks passed, more Hanel people came down from the fleet to meet humans. They shared meals together, told stories, and found they had more in common than anyone had expected. Taiwan made a breakthrough when he helped fix the air conditioning in the conference center. "Your basic engineering principles are sound," he told the maintenance team. "You just need to think about energy flow differently." The human engineers watched, asked questions, and soon began suggesting improvements of their own. Sunmai spent her evenings learning Earth languages and teaching humans about Hanel culture. She found that humans loved their stories about the stars, while Hanel people were fascinated by Earth's rich history of art and music. "Your people have created so much beauty," She told a group of artists. We had forgotten how to make art just for the joy of it. Our technology made things too perfect, too planned. One evening, Hannah sat with Dr. Santos in the garden, watching the sunset. Earth's sun was younger and yellower than their old star, its light warm and friendly. Why do you think other advanced civilizations rejected you? Dr. Santos asked quietly. Hannah thought carefully before answering. They had forgotten something we're learning again here on Earth. That growth isn't just about technology. It's about growing wiser, kinder, more understanding. As night fell, lights came on in the city below. In apartments and homes, Hannel families were having dinner with human hosts. In laboratories, teams worked together, sharing ideas and dreams. In schools, children drew pictures of their new friends from the stars. We were so afraid of being rejected again, Hannah said, watching the city lights twinkle like stars. We never imagined that coming to a younger civilization would teach us so much about ourselves. Dr. Santos smiled. Maybe that's why you found us. Sometimes the best teachers are those who are still learning themselves. Above them, the morning star shone faintly in the darkening sky, no longer a refugee ship but a bridge between worlds. In its light, two civilizations were learning that understanding wasn't about being the same. It was about being willing to grow together. Not everyone on Earth welcomed the Hannel with open arms. 3 months after first contact, Duha stood in his office aboard the Morning Star, watching news reports from Earth on multiple screens. Each one showed protests in different cities. They want us to leave, young Mai said, entering the office with fresh reports. 5 countries have signed a declaration saying we're a threat to Earth's independence. Duha rubbed his tired eyes. They had seen this before on other worlds, but somehow it hurt more this time. What are they afraid of? The usual things, young Mai replied, bringing up more images. They think we'll take their jobs, use up Earth's resources, or make humans dependent on our technology. The largest screen showed a protest in a major city. People carried signs reading "Earth for Humans" and "Save our jobs." But what caught Duha's attention was something else. Counter-protesters standing with signs that said "Welcome, Hannel," and "We were all refugees once." The door chimed, and Hannah rushed in. Duha, you need to see this. She pulled up a video that was going viral on Earth's internet. It showed a young Hannel girl helping an elderly human woman who had fallen in the park. The girl used her personal medical scanner to check for injuries, then stayed with the woman until help arrived. The simple act of kindness had been caught on someone's phone. It's not just this video, Hannah explained. People are sharing their own stories of meeting us. The children's exchange program videos are everywhere. Young May nodded eagerly. My human friends say their parents changed their minds about us after seeing how we live, how we care for each other. They're starting to understand we're just people, like them. But the opposition wasn't giving up. A group of nations demanded that the UN cancel all agreements with the Hannel. They claimed Earth's development would be corrupted by advanced alien influence. That evening, Sun Meikang faced these fears directly in a global broadcast interview. The young diplomat sat calmly as the interviewer asked hard questions. How can we trust that you won't simply take over once we let you settle here? Sun Mi smiled gently. Look at our history. We had the power to take over any world we found, but we never did. We asked for permission everywhere we went. Even now, with all our technology, we choose to ask, not demand. But you're so far ahead of us technologically, the interviewer pressed. Being advanced doesn't mean being better, Sun Mi replied. We've learned more from humans in 3 months than we learned in 15 years of wandering space. You have art that moves us to tears, music that makes us dance, and kindness that humbles us. The interview went viral. People began sharing it with added stories of their own interactions with the Hannel. Videos spread of Hannel engineers helping fix local problems, of their doctors treating human patients, of their teachers sharing knowledge in ways that helped humans advance on their own. The tide began to turn. Human children who had made friends with Hannel kids refused to stay quiet. They made their own videos, wrote letters to newspapers, and spoke at community meetings. One video showed young Mai teaching a group of human and Hanel children together. "Look," people said, "they're just like us. They want what we want, a safe place to live, a chance to work, a future for their children." The opposition leaders found their support crumbling as more people met the Hanel face to face. It was hard to fear people who joined local cleanup drives, helped in community gardens, and cried at Earth movies. Duha watched all this from the Morning Star, hope growing in his heart. "We've faced rejection so many times," he told Hannah. "But this time, it's different. Because humans are different," Hannah said. "They're not afraid to change their minds when they see the truth." In cities across Earth, something remarkable was happening. Humans were opening their homes to Hanel families, sharing meals, teaching their language, learning Hanel stories. The protests grew smaller, while the welcome signs grew more numerous. A month later, Duha received a message from the UN. More nations had voted to support the Hanel settlement program. They could stay, not as refugees, but as new citizens of Earth. That night, celebrations broke out in both human and Hanel communities. Children who had once lived among the stars danced with children who had never left Earth. Above them all, the morning star shone like a beacon, no longer a symbol of homelessness, but a bridge between two peoples who had chosen to face the future together. "Computer, direct link to Captain Kim. Priority 1. She said, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. Duha's face appeared on her screen. "Hannah, what's wrong?" "Our solar monitors just detected a massive solar flare building up. It's bigger than anything in Earth's recorded history. Their satellites won't detect it for another hour, but when it hits, she sent him the data." Duha's face paled as he read the numbers. "How long?" 18 hours at most. Earth's magnetic field isn't strong enough to protect them fully. This will fry most of their electrical systems, damage their power grids, and destroy their satellites. "Can they protect themselves?" Hannah shook her head. "Not with their current technology. This would send them back to the Dark Ages, Duha. Millions could die when critical systems fail." Duha stood up straighter. "Contact the fleet. Tell Engineer Ta-1 to prepare the shield systems. And get me Earth's leaders. Now." An hour later, the world's major leaders gathered in an emergency video conference. Some still looked skeptical when Hannah explained the danger. "Our own solar monitoring systems haven't detected anything unusual," one leader said. "Because your equipment isn't sensitive enough yet," Ta-1 explained. "But you can verify our data. The flare is coming. The question is, will you let us help?" "What kind of help?" another leader asked. Duha stepped forward. "Our ships have advanced shield technology. We can position the fleet to create a protective barrier between Earth and the solar flare. Our shields can deflect most of the harmful radiation." "And what do you want in return?" someone demanded. "Want?" Duha looked surprised. "We want to save the world we hope to share with you. That's all." Arguments broke out among the leaders. Some trusted the Hanel, others suspected a trick. As they debated, precious minutes ticked away. Finally, young Mez stepped into view of all the cameras. "While you argue, the flare gets closer. We lost our world once. We can't stand by and watch another one suffer if we can help." Her words silenced the arguments. The UN Secretary General spoke up. "What do you need from us?" The next hours were a blur of activity. The Hanel fleet moved into position, spreading out in a massive shield formation between Earth and the Sun. On the ground, Hanel engineers worked with human teams to protect critical infrastructure as best they could. Shield power at maximum, Ta-1 reported from the Morning Star's engine room. "But Captain, the ships were never designed to handle this much solar energy. The shields will hold, but the strain on our engines." Duha nodded grimly. "Better our ships than their world." The flare hit with devastating force. The Hanel ship shields glowed brilliant blue, catching the brutal wave of radiation. Inside the Morning Star, alarms blared as systems overloaded. Hull temperature rising. Someone shouted. Shield generators at 110% capacity. Hold position. Duha ordered. Divert all power to shields. On Earth, people watched in awe as the sky lit up with curtains of aurora created by the radiation the shields couldn't completely deflect. But thanks to the Hanel fleet, Earth's electronics continued working. Their satellites stayed in orbit. Their power grids remained stable. The light show lasted for 6 hours. When it finally ended, the Hanel fleet had paid a heavy price. Every ship showed damage. Some had burned out engines, others had cracked hulls. The Morning Star's once sleek silver surface was scorched black in places. But Earth was safe. Recovery teams scrambled to help repair the damaged fleet. Human engineers worked alongside Hanel crews, learning as they helped. The sight of human spacewalkers helping fix Hanel ships became a powerful symbol of cooperation. A week later, Duha stood in the UN Assembly Hall again. His uniform was stained with repair work, but he stood tall. Some of you questioned our motives for coming to Earth, he said simply. We hope our actions have answered those questions. We protected Earth not because we had to, but because this is what neighbors do. This is what family does. The assembly hall erupted in applause. Even former critics stood and cheered. News channels worldwide showed images of the damaged Hanel ships, now being repaired in Earth orbit by joint human Hanel teams. We lost our home once, Hannah told reporters later. We couldn't bear to see our new home suffer when we could prevent it. Sometimes the strongest bonds are forged in the hardest moments. That evening, children in schools across Earth made thank you cards for the Hanel fleet crews. The cards showed spaceships colored in crayon, with simple messages in many languages that all meant the same thing. Thank you for protecting our home. 3 months after the solar flare incident, Ta-1 stood on a hilltop overlooking the construction site of the first Hanel human city. The morning sun cast long shadows across the valley where teams of workers from both worlds worked together, building something entirely new. It's beautiful, isn't it? Sunmay asked, joining him on the hill. She held up blueprints showing the city's design, a perfect blend of Earth's natural architecture and Hanel's sustainable technology. Different from what we planned, Ta-1 replied, smiling. The humans keep suggesting improvements to our designs. Yesterday, a local architect showed me how to use bamboo in our building frames. It's stronger than our original material and grows right here on Earth. Below them, the city took shape. Solar panels that looked like flower petals opened to face the sun. Gardens grew on every rooftop. Streets were designed for both walking and vehicles, with trees lining every path. Most importantly, the homes were built in mixed neighborhoods. Hanel families would live next door to human families. In Geneva, Hannah sat with the United Nations Committee on Integration. The room was full of both human and Hanel representatives, working on new laws to protect everyone's rights. We need to be careful about sharing technology, Hannah explained. Not because we want to keep secrets, but because some advances need to happen in the right order. She showed them a timeline. See, we'll start with clean energy and medical improvements, things that help everyone without disrupting Earth's natural development. The human representatives nodded in understanding. They had seen how the Hanel respected Earth's way of doing things, never forcing changes but offering suggestions and help when asked. Meanwhile, young Mai was having her first day as a teacher in a regular Earth school. Her classroom had both human and Hanel children, all eager to learn from each other. Today, she told her students, we're going to learn about both Earth's solar system and the star system where the Hanel came from. Can anyone tell me what's different about Earth's sun? A human child raised her hand. It's younger and healthier than the Hanel's old sun was. That's right, young Mai said warmly. And what's the same about both worlds? A Hanel boy spoke up. People need to take care of their planet and each other. In orbit, Du has supervised the transformation of the Morning Star. The great ship that had carried them across space was becoming a space station where humans could learn about space travel. The other ships in the fleet were being carefully dismantled, their materials used to build the new cities. "It feels right," he told Elder Jaiho, who watched from his hover chair. "Our ships brought us here, and now they're helping us build our new home." Jaiho nodded, his eyes bright. "Did you see the news this morning? The first Hanel-human wedding is next week. Love finds a way, even across the stars." On Earth's streets, signs of integration were everywhere. Hanel food stalls stood next to human restaurants, offering tastes of their culture. Human music played in Hanel homes. Children taught each other games from both worlds. Parks had signs in both languages. In hospitals, Hanel doctors worked alongside human doctors, sharing their knowledge while learning Earth's medical practices. They discovered that combining both worlds' healing methods often worked better than either alone. Sunmei spent her evenings in community centers, helping both humans and Hanel adjust to their new shared life. "Remember," she told everyone, "we're not trying to become the same. We're learning to be different together." One day, a human child asked her, "Aren't you sad about leaving your home?" Sunmei thought carefully before answering. "We miss our old home. We always will. But look around. We're building something new here, something maybe even better. Because this time, we're not alone." As the first integrated city neared completion, Earth's news channels covered the story. They showed Hanel engineers teaching humans about clean energy, while human botanists helped the Hanel learn about Earth's plants. They filmed children playing together in new parks, and neighbors sharing meals that mixed foods from both cultures. "This is more than just finding a new home," Hannah told a reporter. "It's about building a future that's better because we're facing it together. Every day, we learn something new from each other. Every day, we grow stronger as one community." That night, as stars twinkled above the new city, Duha watched Earth's moon rise over the horizon. Their long journey had led them here, not to a perfect world, but to one that was perfect for them. A world still learning, still growing, still dreaming of better things. 5 years had passed since the Hanel first arrived on Earth. In a bright classroom in New Hope City, young Mai watched as her students worked on their science projects. Some had dark hair and pale skin like the Hanel, others showed Earth's diverse heritage, but all of them belonged to the first generation growing up in this new shared world. Ms. Kim called out Minji, a 7-year-old Hanel girl born on Earth. "Can you help us? We're trying to grow plants using both Earth soil and Hanel growing techniques." Yumli smiled as she walked over to Minji's team, which included 2 human children. Their project combined traditional Earth farming with Hanel-like technology. It was exactly the kind of natural cooperation she loved to see. "The plants grow faster with the special lights," explained Tommy, one of the human children. "But Minji says they taste better in Earth soil. That's why we're testing both ways," added Sophia, their other teammate. "Best of both worlds, right?" Outside the school, the city hummed with life. 5 years of living together had changed both peoples in wonderful ways. Hanel shops used Earth's colorful signs and decorations, while human buildings now had Hanel energy-saving features. The streets were full of people wearing clothes that mixed both styles. Hana, now the head of the Joint Science Academy, worked in her office overlooking the city garden. On her desk sat 2 tablets, one with advanced Hanel technology, the other a simpler Earth model. She used both, understanding that progress wasn't about replacing Earth's way of doing things, but helping them grow at their own pace. "The medical results are amazing," Dr. Santos told her during their daily meeting. "Combining Earth's natural medicines with Hanel healing technology has cured diseases we thought were hopeless. And Earth's doctors have taught us so much about caring for the whole person, not just treating symptoms," Hana replied. "We had forgotten some of these simple truths in our rush for advancement." In another part of the city, Taiwan led a class of mixed human and Hanel engineering students. They were designing new types of homes that would work in Earth's different climates. "Remember," he told them, "the best technology isn't always the most advanced. It's the one that works best for the people who use it." His students nodded, already understanding this important lesson. One of them had designed a heating system that used Hanel energy principles, but was built with simple earth materials that local workers could easily maintain. Duha, his hair now more gray than black, spent his mornings in the city's space center. The morning star still orbited above them, but now it served as a school where humans learned about space travel. Every day, he watched young human pilots training alongside Hanel space veterans. They learned so quickly, he told Sunmei during lunch. Sometimes I think they teach us more than we teach them. Sunmei, who now ran the cultural exchange program, smiled. That's because they don't just copy what we do. They imagine new ways to do things. Have you seen the new spacesuits they designed? They combined our technology with their own ideas about comfort and flexibility. In the city parks, grandparents from both worlds sat together, watching their grandchildren play. Elder Jaiho, now quite frail but still wearing his traditional blue robes, often joined them. "Look at them," he said to a human grandmother. "They don't see Hanel or human anymore. They just see friends." The children played games that mixed both cultures, hopscotch patterns drawn with light strips, hide and seek using simple Hanel tracking toys, sports that combined Earth's physical games with Hanel strategy. One evening, young Me found Minji crying after class. "What's wrong?" she asked gently. "My friend asked me if I miss our old world," Minji said. "But I was born here. Earth is my home. Is that wrong? Should I feel sad about the world my parents left?" Young Mei hugged her student. "No, sweetie. Your parents came here so you could have a home. And you do. You honor their journey by helping build this new world." Later that night, young Mei told her father about Minji's question. Duha smiled, remembering their long journey through space. "We didn't just find a place to live," he said. "We found a place where our children could truly belong. That's worth more than all the advanced civilizations that rejected us." As the sun set over New Hope City, the lights came on, a beautiful mix of Earth's warm golden lamps and Hanel's soft blue glows. In homes across the city, families gathered for dinner, sharing foods and stories from both worlds, building a future that was richer because it belonged to everyone. Mary walked up to the old house. She felt nervous but also excited. This was the house where her grandmother lived for many years. Mary had so many good memories of visiting her grandmother here when she was a little girl. The house looked smaller than Mary remembered. The white paint was cracked and peeling. Some of the windows were broken. Weeds grew high in the yard, but the red front door was the same. Mary took a deep breath and knocked. At first, nothing happened. Maybe no one lived here now, Mary thought. Then she heard slow footsteps coming closer inside the house. The door creaked open. An old woman stared at Mary through the screen door. Her gray hair was pulled back in a bun. Her face had many wrinkles, but her eyes were bright and sharp. "Yes, what do you want?" the old woman said in a shaky voice. She sounded cranky. Mary swallowed hard. "Oh, hello. My name is Mary. My grandmother used to live here many years ago. Her name was Edna Thompson. I was hoping I could come in and look around the old house for old time's sake." The old woman looked Mary up and down slowly. "Edna Thompson, you say?" "I knew Edna. She was my best friend." The old woman smiled. The crankiness left her voice. "Any granddaughter of Edna's is welcome here. Come in, child. I'm Agnes." Mary smiled back, relieved. Agnes opened the screen door. Mary stepped into the dim, musty house and looked around. So many memories came flooding back to her. This was going to be an interesting visit.